There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I wasn't really sure exactly how the turnout would be. I kind of looked at the signups online and thought it would be like 4, so I'm glad that you guys all could join me today on this preliminary beta test training session you guys started up. You got one more coming? Nice. We'll get started anyway. So here primarily today to talk about RAB Light Cloud Blue, which is the RAB's simplified version of controls. There is another version that's Light Cloud Enterprise that has control with a gateway that you can control lighting from anywhere. But this is the simplified version, which operates off of Bluetooth network, and it's just no hub, no gateway required setup, which is why it's lighting control made easy. So no hub, limited to Bluetooth range. So typically you see around 60 feet of range. You know, if you ever use like a Bluetooth speaker with your phone and walked away from it and hear it start to cut out, that's about the range you expect for control. But all those devices expand and grow upon each other. So by adding more devices, you increase the range, making it easy to scale, easy to grow, and control from there. There are limitations on devices, number of devices you can have, but it's not something we've seen an issue yet. Once you hit those limits, you're looking more of an enterprise system. But when you can have 64 areas in a site and up to 200 devices per area and up to 64 sites on your account, on your phone, controlled, that scales up to 38,000 devices, which is a heck of a lot. If somebody hits the max, I want to meet that person. They've done an astounding job of creating a giant network of controls. So first, I want to start by recapping some of the products we introduced second half of last year and even into a bit of this year as well, since we're continuing to grow the catalog of Light Cloud Blue enabled devices. It's kind of the go-to mantra for what we're doing, where we're updating and putting out new lighting units and models, is add Light Cloud Blue control and the ability to have it available as an option if the customer wants it. Starting with the line voltage controller, which is actually a wonderful item because it allows you to add Light Cloud Blue control to any 0 to 10 volt dimmable fixture with some limitations. But as long as it's 0 to 10 volt dimmable and you can wire into it, you've created a Light Cloud Blue device that you can add to your network controlled devices if you so choose. Say if somebody just bought a fixture and it's like no point in replacing it, but they want to add control, this is a solution for that, allowing them to add it to the control and monitor it from there. You know, there's no sense of taking down a modern fixture when it's doing the job. You know, we created a solution to be able to control those devices. Same with low voltage sensors and controllers. We've added these for indoor and outdoor control as well for use with 0 to 10 volt dimming devices, as long as there's a 12 volt driver. So we also have a line voltage sensor that you can use this as standalone for ceiling or wall applications to control a single area, up to 200 devices per area, that has daylight harvesting with continuous dimming involved and with an IP rating for outdoor usage as well. We've also introduced recently an XDIM, and actually there's another dimmer, there's a ZDIM as well, but this XDIM is a module that has an interchangeable paddle that you can actually remove directly from the device. So we're adding it to because there's a non-Light Cloud version. Starting with, you had non-Light Cloud fixtures, and down the road you wanted to go to Light Cloud control. You can actually remove that module, and it was just a standard 0 to 10 volt dimming version. Add the Light Cloud Blue control in there, and you no longer need 0 to 10 volt dimming wires going directly to that fixture. The dimming control or aux sensor control is directly from that paddle switch with no interconnectability. And then here's the 0 to 10 volt dimming one I was already talking about there. Getting into the fixtures, we've introduced this past year, 2024, the second half, the C-Swish in 1x4, 2x2, 2x4 variants with Light Cloud Blue enabled control, and this one has, let's go back for a second, the microwave aux sensor only on that one. Our backlit flat panels introduced on all sizes as well. This will have full color temperature control, dimming capabilities on all these models. And if you need to add in passive infrared sensor for depending on the height, or microwave depending on the application, and battery backup if the application calls for it when you need those emergency situations. Also on the RT LED, which is retrofit troffer, which is great for those applications where people have troffers already in place with old T4. They don't want to do tubes. That whole assembly clicks into place, instant, fast, quick install with Light Cloud Blue controllability as well on those models. We've had the LED retrofit troffer available. This is just us adding the Light Cloud Blue enabled to them. The Tomo, which is either surface or pendant mount fixture, comes in 3 different lengths, 2, 4, and 8 feet. Added Light Cloud Blue control up to these guys as well. One of our high bay models, we added control into the Aero Bay and also the UFO style H17 fuel adjustable. So you have control over both the light output in lumens and color temperature on that guy as well. Passive infrared or microwave sensor control on those if needed. This feature I'm actually really excited about, and it follows up right after the H17 because that's the fixture it's compatible with. But this is an emergency battery backup system that has Light Cloud Blue control enabled, which can perform monthly self-tests and put out automatic reports in Excel documents. This is wonderful for facilities that need to turn in those reports, and they're required by law to have those reports turned in and presented and available to people when those inspections occur. So there's a monthly self-test and an annual self-test. The fixtures just flash during those time periods. Yes, it exports through the app, the Light Cloud Blue app, and directly to an email in Excel format. So it's easy for if you need a physical copy, you can print it from there, or something you need to email to some location for somebody to analyze and store, that's available as well. Adding Light Cloud Blue control into the Porto, which is your kind of overhang underhab exterior lighting, along with the sensor controls. Same with the parking fixture light, in case you have parking structures. And these are some brand new models. These models were released at the end of last year, and these did not exist prior. So these launched with Light Cloud Blue off the get-go. Some more decorative architectural style bollards with their matching sconces, the slot, the tile, the mushroom, the poof. And these all have the 5-year limited warranty on them. And this is the version of the light actually I have with me today, the X34. This is the very smallest version. We've added RGB control to this as well. I don't know about you guys, but everywhere I go these days, I drive around at night, every building I see has some sort of colored lighting that's shining up their building. It's the standard. It's kind of everything's but its go-to. So we added that. You can do standard color temperature, 2200K up to 6500K control on those as well. And 5% down in the dimming as well for those. Different mounting styles based off your application. The WP LED, wall mount, more downlight than out. The A34 area light parking lot. This one does not have tie-in for, sorry, it does have tie-in for photocell. I'm mistaken. It's on the bottom side as opposed to the top side. It doesn't have photocell as aux sensor. It's more of an area light scenario. So this is came out end of the year, so these items have already kind of launched. The Z-Dim, as I referenced earlier when I was talking about the X-Dim, this is a line voltage device that does not require any connected load to the fixture to control. So you're providing line control to the device, but you don't need any control to the fixture. It ties into the app, controls up to 200 Light Cloud Blue devices completely wirelessly. And there's a occupancy sensitive version for that as well. We've also, these actually have not launched yet, so this is coming soon still. The commercial downlight versions, when you're reaching into the outside of the residential application for your retrofits. We have increased some features on the app. It was pretty dry bones off the get-go, so we're into version like 2.2 now. So we've added some features. It is available on the App Store and Google Play, depending on which device. It doesn't matter. You can use it from anything. If you have a tablet, that's close. The other beautiful thing is you don't need to be on a wireless network with the devices. It's as long as you're within 30 feet of a fixture, you're going to have a tie-in and be able to access it. They added and changed some of the control tabs for the fixture schedules, and this kind of gives you a first glimpse on the areas you could set up within the app, and from there you're tying in devices in those areas, and you have immediate control based off of your area and whatever you want to do with it. You can also set scenes and schedules. This is really designed to be a catch-all application that allows you to do anything from, as long as you're on site next to the fixtures and apply those changes. It's a set it and forget it, but also be able to pop it open and control it at any time. A set it forget it's more designed for your areas where the fixtures come on a set and schedule. You no longer have to have an electrician go out there and wire it a mechanical timer. He doesn't have to go out there and change it every single time we do daylight savings times, and then the lights aren't coming on early enough because they don't have photo eyes. It's on the phone and you're done. They combine the schedules and SmartShift tab to make things easier. SmartShift is a lighting program that is circadian rhythm lighting. So that schedule is designed around the clock to wake up in the morning. It's really something we designed specifically for healthcare facilities and retirement homes. There are scientific studies that show that circadian rhythm lighting, which is starting off dim in the morning, brightening up and getting into more daylight, kind of following the sun's schedule, where it's kind of got that warm glow in the morning, bright in the afternoon, and dimming down. There are a lot of studies that are showing that it reduces fall rates in people that are in those facilities, which you can imagine be a great selling point to those places. You go in there and say, I can reduce your fall rate by X% based off these studies, putting these lights in place. Added XDIM controls. So we added the ability to have to control an entire site. And we've made it so there's, since they are dimmers by default, we added a switch mode where it's on-off only, which has been a requested feature. There is an indicator light on the bottom of some fixtures. This is the X34, and you can kind of see this red light on the bottom. It's not like the prettiest thing, so they added the ability to control that and automatically turn it off after 10 minutes, which is, that's something that people might have wanted. We also have built-in daylight harvesting dimming into our controls. So this feature allows you to set the target light level and the time frequency in which to control that. The big notes here to take away are that daylight harvesting and photocells cannot be used together, and then daylight cells and or photocells can be used when the OCC sensor is disabled. So it's kind of like a one or the other, not everything. You can't have everything at the same time scenario. But obviously, daylight harvesting is always about setting the target light level and allowing it to control based off of the amount of daylight it's seeing in the environment. This slide kind of shows here our threshold on, off, or continuous dimming categories based off of the fixtures and what you're trying to accomplish. Other great feature about the RAB Light Club Blue controls is that you're only setting up everything on one device. And there's a slide about this later covering it, but you really have to start with one device from the get-go. And from there, you could share those profiles with anybody. So if you had somebody set it up from there, you're going to share that with your facilities manager, the office manager, whoever is going to be able to control those things. It can be shared with many people as you want. There's no really limitations on that. The QR code does expire, so you have to kind of like beyond that, send to somebody if it doesn't go through, it's because they waited too long, just a security reason. Another great feature we added on here was the energy report. This feature does require a bit of a firmware update to devices, but thankfully here on the next slide, so I'm the following one. Updating firmware on the devices is super easy. It's just a matter of hitting update all. The lights are going to flash. Takes time based off of whatever platform you're on, Android or iPhone. iPhone takes a little longer, but now from here, you'll be able to view an energy report and view power consumption based off of zones and sites. Mhm. You have to be on site, within range, within 30 feet of a fixture. And that's rough, you know. If there's some no, no, unless you gave them the QR code, that would be the only instance. Yes, they'd have to be within proximity of the fixtures. Yep. Since this one doesn't have any gateway, any hub, there's no nobody can go back behind and plug in and have access to all your lighting. Now slide viewing the power consumption, and it'll issue it per fixture as well. And you can also set those limits if you need to as well on the fixture. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the slide I was talking about in the firmware updates. If fixtures have a firmware update, there's going to be the yellow dot next to it. This is kind of how the devices look on your device before they've been allocated to a zone. And it's a matter of going in there, hitting update. And like I said, here's a slide talking about how it takes a little longer on iOS to get things done. I don't know why, but it's just how things are. You can also select more than one device too. So you need to update multiple devices, selecting them, hitting update all. When you open a device box, there's a sticker on with a labeling code, and this is great for people that are setting up and have prints of the layouts and stuff like that, and want to put each label sticker on that map. That way, you can have a good category of where everything got placed on your build out. One of the greatest features behind this program is you can add up to 100 devices at a time. So if you have, and the idea is to keep areas loading separately. So if you're loading more than one area, shut off powers to the ones you're not commissioning, not turning on. The area you want to control immediately, turn those on, add those, put them into an area. It's the best way to really keep things simple. But up to 100 devices at a time is really more than most people are going to need. In a lot of scenarios, you're hitting 50, 60 max, but it's probably only a few. Here we are talking about the range. I've kind of brought up a little bit. The 60 feet is really talking about when devices have no line of sight. If you have line of sight, it's really closer to 200. And then as long as your phone is within 30, but I've seen much more. It's really, since Bluetooth is a wireless frequency, it could come down to how much other interference there is. Skipped ahead mentally, but this is adding slide on adding the devices. When you first add them, they are in ungrouped, not assigned to areas, and then you have to provision them and add them to areas from there. What's also kind of nice too is there is kind of like a signal strength identifier. The closer you are to a fixture, the more bars you're going to have. Further away, it's showing the signal strength, so you can kind of more easily identify stuff if you have more than one fixture on. Most of the time you do. From here, it's a better look inside the app where you're controlling all your lights on or off. You can adjust the dimming levels and control RGB, and I'll kind of demonstrate that off here. I've added these two fixtures to my phone already. I have them on separate areas where I could turn them on and off. I can also go in and change their color temperature on the slider down to 2200, up to 6500K, or back to RGB, any color I want. Tilt that up so everybody can see a little better. Stay. And you can set favorites and controls and based off of your categories. It always displays as the color wheel control. This is exactly what I'm looking at on my phone. And then if I want to turn that one off, I can. Then I can turn this one on. I have separate control over that. This one's kind of bright and obnoxious, so any color temperature, down to 2200, up to 65. And now I've officially blinded myself. We've also introduced a true wireless remote for this capability as well. These can control up to 600 fixtures if you really wanted to. Obviously, that's a lot for such a small remote, but you can. This way you don't have to have somebody that has to pop open their phone, select the right area. This is tied to an area. And actually can link up to, I think it's 3 areas. Let me confirm on the next slide. No, and it's not on the slide. It is. So yeah, up to 3 areas, or you can set it to control the entire site. Say there's an entire site with several areas you wanted to control and you wanted to power them all off simultaneously, turn the light brightness up. You can also preset scenes, customize the buttons on the fly in case you wanted it was a bunch of RGB lights. You wanted to change between red and green based off of something was occurring on the fly, you can. Getting into a few sensor settings, getting a little deep on this stuff. They really just added this, so I haven't had time to play with one in person yet. But you can control the motion sensitivity, the brightness in which it was last triggered, with a timeout for the occupancy, your standby timeout, and your standby light level, and what to do when vacant. Also tie in for the daylight harvesting as well. So Light Club Blue is designed to function with lights that are hardwired and don't have a interruptible switch. Kind of what I'm doing here is more of a mundane version. It's designed to always have power. The only termination there is at the breaker. This is kind of just to like maintain the internal clock and keep them up and running. There is recovery. What happens when you do lose power? There is a device, and you know what I meant to do is hand out the booklets, since this has a lot of other things that aren't in this slide as well. If you wanted to have Alexa or Google Home control, there is a nano device which plugs into your network, allowing you to have those controls as well. No.
Customer is trying to, right, so the customer you're trying to sell to, and we explain this product, he says, well, I'd rather be able to, if I leave my lights on, I can turn them off. What's the benefit of this?
Yeah. Set a schedule. So this is repeat the question, is what's the benefit of being able to control only from your site? And the example was if you were at a restaurant, you wanted to turn your lights off at home. On, off, whatever, exactly. The idea is this is more about setting schedules. So obviously there's gonna be times where you leave your house and you leave your lights on. Add an occupancy sensor to your home. Not absurd. Parents are doing it all over in their bathroom. They're tired of the kids leaving lights on. They add aux sensors to their bathrooms and stuff like that. I'd say it's about the same. It's definitely the question was, is my site as easy to use as others in the market? And my personal use, I've had like integration using like the Philips Hue system before, and that's all I've really had access to. I haven't used any other standard systems prior to this, so I don't have a good comparison. And I think that it's growing is what my safest answer is. It's getting better. They're pushing updates and they're making changes. The ones that they saw a couple months ago made things more user friendly. I think that's the direction that they're heading, is making things more user friendly and easy to add. Um, yeah, and if you want, and I don't know exactly if you can, because they need to be on the network for like a nano device to work. Your Google Home or your Alexa, um, so that you need to be physically on that network. So if you had, this is possible, you could actually create like a VPN server at your house that you've made access to from your phone. You could theoretically do it remote, but it would require, some more advanced IT tie-ins if you really wanted to. For somebody that wanted full control, I had somebody last week bother me, and they have a sports facility in Ann Arbor, and the guy lives in Arizona, and he wanted to add functionality to turn his outdoor sports lighting on and off from his home in Arizona for some reason. That was an enterprise application. We had to add in a cellular device that connects to cell phone towers that communicates externally, which is an option. Going back to the power outage recovery, you can decide if you want it to come back onto the last dimming level or the last state, depending on what your preference is. This is jumping into profile sharing. Like I said earlier, shared indefinitely. The number of users accessing a shared site is limited to the total number of devices on that site, which is kind of an obscure fact, but usually you're not adding everybody and their cousin to control all the lights in the facility, and you're only adding a handful. But yep, and it's shared with a QR code. Getting into a few case studies where the examples where we kind of introduced like Club Blue into the controls, which is an ISD. They have 28,000 devices across 70 campuses they want to control over. And this is what we projected that they needed for those. They average about 400 devices per campus. And it looks like we did only 2x4 troffers for all of those. And they needed to have daylight harvesting, on-off dimming scenes, battery backup. You need to be able to add to it, and it was simple to install. There's a manufacturing facility where we did high bays in. This high base had battery backup with aux sensing, wireless control. And they didn't have to run additional wires to control these devices. They hung them, they commissioned them to the app, and they were done. So the electrician no longer needs to run that pink-purple pair to control all your devices or remotely dim them. It's done on the device. What comes into play a lot of times with the enterprise system too is you run into an issue where you're required to have a lot of like Wi-Fi coverage in facilities if they're doing other coverage like that. And that's a system either you have in place or you don't have in place. Whereas the Light Club Blue system, everything grows on itself. The more fixtures you add, the more area you apply to the network. There's a dairy farm where we did UFO high bays, and they needed to have the remote control feature to control it. They did the SmartShift, which it does the mimicking the sunrise sunset schedules, healthy for the cows, of course, to have less probability of falling over. Sorry. We did one in SeaWorld where we actually did LED tubes with wireless remotes and the controllers based off of these guys here. We did the Washington State University high base with the aluminum shield. similar scenario where we did the SeaWorld, where we did the lamp program at a paint tunnel for Toyota. This was extremely crucial because Toyota was specifically calling out for a very definitive color temperature in the lights. And because when you add the Light Cloud Blue, you go and you have control over the 2200K to 6500K, they determined that the paint appeared properly for their test systems at like some obscure definitive Kelvin temperature was what they wanted to see. And since we can offer that at a high CRI, color render index, this was able to accomplish that project for them. This is a wild one where we did the Type B candelabra lamps at the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. 19,000 B11 lamps, which was absurd. This facility has 2,000 fixtures in it and counting. It ties back into the growth option. Once they start adding to this, it just becomes easier and easier to add to it. I guess I shouldn't say it gets easier. It stays at a level index, plateaus at the level of easy. Some more sports lighting, where they want a remote control. Jumping into some issues that people may experience. It's tying back into when I said earlier that all devices require constant power. When they're off, and your phone doesn't see them. They need to be on and tied into that mesh network to be recognized. So they really recommend you avoid putting those devices downstream of anything that interrupts power. Outside of Light Cloud Blue enabled control, aux sensors, and photo controls. Other issues with the paired remote. The remote has to be assigned to an area. And this just explains how to kind of solve those issues if they're occurring. I'm gonna skip ahead. More remote stuff, I'm gonna skip ahead. Another issue with some sensors that don't time out, being sure you have selected on passive infrared or microwave. There are some issues known where HVAC vents and fans can control some stuff and throw things out of a loop. Just air moving, it senses sometimes. It's all about going in there and tweaking that sensitivity level to get it dialed in. And thankfully, everything's tied into a remote. You know, you don't have to, nobody has to go out, get on a scissor lift, take it off the box, manually dial it, put it back up there, get out of the way. It's just about going into the app, tuning the sensitivity to high, medium, or low, and you're done. This came up earlier, but covered again, the bi-level dimming for the motion. There is standby level and a standby timeout. This is an issue with people having communication issues, and it really comes down to being within range of each other. If you for some reason have to stagger a device out beyond its range, that could present an issue. Having line of sight, no obstructions is really the biggest detriment. Bluetooth, this is not a super powerful signal. It's not like Wi-Fi where it penetrates walls really well. So something to really consider. There has been an issue with people trying to add too many devices when they add stuff together. So it's really pretty important that if you're doing a batch add, it can't exceed 100 devices. It's really the limitation. It's kind of something they set it at just as a safe stop. I mentioned this earlier, but saying it again, you can only have one device set up everything at a time. It's start with one device, end with one device. Multiple people need access. That's when you go and you share that with everybody with the QR code. Also, another issue is if you push an update, you're not seeing new features. It's because your device requires an update, or your fixture might require a firmware update. So it's really about making sure that those things are all up to date. That way, everything's compatible the way we want it to. That's about everything. Any questions you guys have? Stunned, silence. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot about just like exploring what the capabilities can be. I really like to present this to people when they actually have somebody asking for a fixture. And the next question after you figure out which fixture the customer needs is asking them, what are you going to do to control that fixture? Because if the answer is simple as a light switch on and off, not really concerned about light cloud blue too extensively, but it's a wall pack that's outside and it doesn't need to be controlled based off of the amount of daylight. It's in an area where most of our fixtures have photocells built in, but you prefer to be on a set schedule. The contractor no longer needs to go out, grab a mechanical timer or a digital timer. They have light cloud blue control, set the schedule on that fixture to turn on and off. It has constant power, and it's done. And that's just one example. A-style lamps, yeah. Yeah, the idea is, the question was, do the A-style and like BR style or MR style lamps need to be in a certain fixture for the control? As long as it's in a fixture that has constant power. That's really where it needs to be. It can go anywhere. Yep, all you need to do is download the app, hit add, and you're off the races. And when the make changes on the apps, they'll flash to kind of indicate that you're pairing them. If you ever do need to do a reset on these devices, there's 3 ways to reset. Some of them have a manual switch. On the bottom of the phone, there's actually a switch, hold it down, manually resets it. Say you have a connectivity issue where it unpaired or something like that happened with a power issue. I haven't had any issues yet, but I've done plenty of unpairing and depairing. If you can't reach the fixture for some reason, and you can also hold a magnet up to it for like 5 seconds, like one of those powerful rare earth magnets, and that'll reset it to a factory default settings. The final way is turning it on and off 5 times. That'll reset it back to factory defaults, and you can re-add it to your device as well. Any other questions at all? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. So like any truffle panel like this that had there were a troffer in place back in the day and it had old tubes in it. The RT LED is a retrofit troffer we have in 2x2, 1x4, and 2x4 that merely just latches in, switches up, and fast install. It's really, it's one of those middle categories where you're kind of convince the customer that the labor savings is the best way to go about it. And to repeat the question, you were asking about the retrofit troffer for those fixtures, and so you asked about costs and if it was beneficial. So yeah, the most beneficial cost there is the same way people prefer LED hybrid tubes, because you can use the ballast if you want to, or you can skip it. There's a premium for that because it has multiple options, but it labor saves because all you have to do is slap it in there, and as long as it's compatible with the ballast that's up there, the ballast dies down the road, you cut it out, you hardwire it. I had a few, yeah, that I won like on a raffle like several years ago, and it's really fitting every application, yeah. And like for residential application, and we even just launched a vanity style light that has wall sconces, something you put in your bathroom and have in your hallway at home. So those things are great because you would just provide constant power to them, and add one of the Z devices to control it if you wanted to right at the wall, and they kind of have a schedule. You kind of have the same schedule you follow every single day, Monday through Friday. You get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, pre-program your bathroom hallway vanity lights to turn on at a nice dim setting. Even at night, have them come on at like 5%. That way they're there, they're on. You need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, it's on, it's available to you. And then, throughout the day, you go to work, you don't need it on. Set the schedule, set it, turn it to off. Sure. Yeah. Yep. I have mine in my living room. Yeah. I find that the hub's really annoying with the Hue. I really, that was the biggest downfall with that, I think, is the hub. Whereas this you get into, there's no hub at all. Yeah. Yeah, 6-inch, 4-inch. Yeah, no problem. 30 samples. I've seen a lot of people do it's the biggest application for like this guy too, since it is outdoor application rated, on like the soffit on the outside of their homes. Everybody's doing that like kind of colored A lamp in their entryway light. But then I'm seeing a lot of people start doing the soffits lights, and now you can do an RGB. I have the RGB one with me, RGB, and you have full control over that guy if you want to, and set it to come on at night and off during the day based off the schedule. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, feelings? Does Jennifer have any? Probably.
Thanks, great info.
Perfect. That's all I want to hear. Yeah. Awesome. That's all I had for you guys. Easy peasy.